Creator Stories podcast with DraugrAU in brackets. We're gonna listen. I'm gonna call him Carl for the majority of this podcast, all right? Because he's just easier. Like, not being funny. No one wants to say DraugrAU out loud, you know. Right. Okay. So we got like 10 questions here. Well, actually, I technically we've got 11 actually. So we'll just get into the first question. Tell us about what you do and how you got into it.
Got the full rundown.
Yeah, go for it. Talk as much as you want, mate.
Yeah, well, I am an Apex Legends professional coach for Team Falcons. What that entails is effectively the same thing that you could expect from a conventional sporting coach. You know, strategy, discipline, accountability. But I would say the main differences include, you know, it being such a small team and such a, I guess, new esport whereby, you know, all of the players are typically more experienced or have been playing the game longer than any of the coaches. A lot of the time you'll find that coaches just work closely with IGLs to kind of like refine what they want from the team. So yeah, besides that, I guess on my team as well, there's like just an incredible amount of emotional support and counseling that I have to do.
Yeah.
Anyways, how I got into it was I played Apex a fair bit when it came out. One of my mates told me that it was a good game. Everybody was in the Fortnite wave back then, like late high school years for me. I played Apex a fair bit and then gave it a rest for a bit as well. And then COVID hit, and where I'm from, Melbourne, it hit pretty hard. So we're in like a pretty intense lockdown. So I pulled the PlayStation back out at the time. Started playing Apex again. One of my mates told me about, Fussy it was telling me about the ALGS Open Qualifier, which allowed pretty much anybody to try and qual. So I gave that a whirl. We just made a random ragtag team, me, Fussy, and one of our other mates called Horrid. And yeah, I played the first week on console and we like top 5'd. And then I figured I'd just buy a PC, so I bought a PC. We ended up calling for Pro League. I played Pro League with various different teams and players for the next year and a half, I'd say. And then, you know, I'd been friends with Waltzy since pretty much the beginning of the game. And his team was having, I guess, chemistry issues. And when I was, you know, since I was just around, I would sit in on their calls whilst they played and just watch them play. They ended up asking me for like my opinions on, you know, like a couple of the arguments or disagreements that they had, and I'd share my opinion. And then we kind of made a joke about me going to the LAN with them as their coach. The joke just got more and more serious, and basically I just took it as like a free holiday where I only had to pay for my flight, and then everything else was like pretty much sorted. I thought, yeah, that'd be cool. I get to go to the UK and fuck around and watch a LAN.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, the UK was fucking abysmal, but the LAN was pretty cool. And then, yeah, I don't know, I just pretty much tried to mediate any shitty little argument they had. And then they had their best LAN that they'd had, so they asked me if I'd be interested in actually just joining as coach. And then, yeah, I figured that was just a better pathway into the esport as opposed to trying to like make it out of Apex South, you know, where only 5 teams qual per LAN, and 2 teams out of every team in the region, well, 1.5 even, are on like livable salaries. So yeah, I said yes, and then the rest is history pretty much.
You went from there, yeah. So you kind of just like fell into coaching pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
You kind of just sort of like played and then sort of just played with them, and then you just got involved, and then I mean, you must just be a good people person then, no? If you got into that like that. See, I
That
didn't
was
even.
pretty much how it happened.
Yeah. Because I didn't even know like
Yeah.
that's how you got into it. I just assumed like you just always done it. But was coaching always like big at the start of Apex, or did they only start introducing coaches like the more the game went on? Because I feel like, is it like a newer thing they've been doing? Because I don't think they had them in like the first couple years of LGS, did they? I'm pretty sure, did they?
The first couple of years it was pretty rare. Wouldn't say I was like one of the first, but there weren't many coaches around when I started coaching. You still have your OGs, you know, like Hod, Raven. I'm pretty sure Noth has been around for a while, but he was a player first as well. But yeah, besides that, it was still a pretty new thing at the time, but it was also around the time that Raven joined TSM, and then TSM all of a sudden got better, so it was like, you know, coaches were kind of a hot commodity at the time.
Yeah, they wanted to start getting some more coaches
trying to find the right fit. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know that's obviously like not a main thing for like coaches. Because I know like I'm pretty sure like Call of Duty never used to have coaches either when they started the CDL and whatnot, did they? And then obviously now it's like becoming like a bigger thing that you should need coaches, and like even like analysts, for example, like they didn't have that as well, and now they've just got coaches, analysts, and pretty much everything. I think like esports like that is kind of growing a bit more, as in like teams are actually taking it more seriously. It's not just free players and just let them go crazy and see what happens, you know? They're actually like backing them with money and going like, right, we want to actually make this work and like get something out of this, you know?
Yes.
But yeah, okay. Well, that pretty much summed up what you do. Next question. Was a career in gaming something you always dreamed / thought about?
I guess I never really played games a whole lot growing up. I don't think I really started playing games like frequently until my final year of school, so when I was like 18, and that was just because like I used to play COD here and there with my mates. But then, you know, Fortnite comes out and everybody was just on a degenerate Fortnite grind. Didn't really matter where you were from. And then, yeah, I guess, you know, you start watching streamers and you watch their competitions and shit, and you just think to yourself, like, this would be really cool to be able to do. But I don't know, I wouldn't really say I ever got stuck on the thought because I just didn't really think it was something that would ever be possible. As I went through the process of becoming more known in Apex, so, you know, broke into the competitive console community by like in this solos tourney back in the day where I came second or third, and then I started getting invited to play in, you know, like competitions with teams and shit, and then it's like you're playing with people that are like the top ranks, and then you have this like, you know, you're excited like, oh my god, I'm playing with this person, I'm playing with this person. That just like I guess kept going and going and going. So it wasn't this like massive outstretch, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't looking up like, oh, like this is where I could get to. It was just kind of like every time I moved up a level, I was like, holy fuck, like how the fuck did this happen? Like, how did I even get here?
Yeah. I feel like
when I made Pro League, I was, holy shit, I'm in the professional league. How the hell have I managed this?
Yeah, especially you started from console as well. Was it just your friends you started with, right? Just like two of your actual, was it IRL friends you had that were just into the game?
Playing Apex, yes, but comp, no. Comp was somebody that I met through the game that I used to grind ranked with.
Okay. Because I also feel like as well, like gaming back in the day, like when obviously like when you started playing, like no one would ever thought now that like there'd be teams competing for like millions of pounds on like massive stages in like IRL events. Like, to be honest, everyone like back in the day used to think that like gaming in general was just like weird and you were like a nerd if you did it. Like, you know, just go outside and do something in your life. Like people used to say stuff like that. So like to actually get to go to like these sick events and like even like you said qualify for like a pro league and stuff like that is mad to see how like actually far it's come in like such a short space of time. Like to what it is now. I mean, I don't know how much more it can grow or if it will grow, because obviously, I mean, I don't know like what the backing they've got, like financial backing of teams and whatnot, but it is crazy to see like how much gaming just in general has progressed, like especially from when I was younger anyway, because everyone used to think like if you game you're just a weirdo and like you didn't leave your house and blah 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 blah.
Well, yeah, it's the pretty much the reception I got from my family initially, and then I don't know, I think it was when they just saw me go to some of the events that I'd been to, started to understand, like show them a video of your team getting called out and you're doing this, like goofy ass walkout,
Yeah,
and all of a sudden the arena that you're in just starts screaming. It kind of became surreal there.
yeah,
Well, it became surreal for me, more real for them.
yeah. Oh, and that's another thing as well. Like bringing up to like the older generation and stuff, like what you do. Like
Mm.
it's hard because it's hard to them to explain it. Like I know I sometimes find it hard to like say to my mum and dad like what I do. Well, when I first told them anyway, because it's kind of like you don't have anything to show for. Do you know what I mean? You kind of want to be like, oh, mum and dad, I do this, but they're like, okay, well, the first question is always how much money are you making, or how well are you doing,
Yeah.
or how many do this you have, how many this do you have, and if you don't really have like anything to show for it, it's kind of like, well, what do I say, sort of thing.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So I just kind of like kept it to myself, and I don't know if you did that as well, like just until you actually had something to be like, yeah, mum, dad, like, listen, I'm gonna do that.
Well, I just kept telling them, like, even whilst playing, I'm like a quick learner and I'm very competitive. So usually when I'm, if I feel like I'm not as good at something as I should be, I'll just like grind the fuck out of it till I get good enough. So I was pretty confident that I could have made it like in Apex South as a player. And I used to tell them like, I'm right there, you just need to kind of back me, have some faith in me. Like even when I streamed on console, I was like getting to the point where I'd, after a couple weeks, organically be averaging 50 viewers, and I'd be like, look, trust me, like, this shit comes in time. Like you're just gonna have to bear with me. Like I'll get there. I can kind of see the pathway, and they just didn't really want a bar of it. And like I said, it didn't really matter what I said or what I showed them, what I did. They weren't really interested in it being like a full-time career. It was the just kind of narrowed it down as an obsession.
Yeah.
And then I started, getting to travel the world and getting paid good money. And then showed them pictures and shit of where I'd been going, and they could see that I was self-sustainable. And then I don't know, you kind of like can't argue with that anymore. You know what I mean? Like it's just there. Now they're like very supportive, but it did take a long time to get them to wrap their heads around it.
Yeah.
Especially when you tell a stranger as well. Like they ask, oh, what do you do for work? Oh, I tell them that I just got back from the US. They're like, oh, why are you in the US? It's like, oh, I work there. What do you do for work? Oh, gaming. I'm in gaming. Right. You're in gaming. Okay.
Yeah. They kind of like don't half believe you. But it's just one
No,
of them.
it's like, oh, so I think the immediate thought is that I'm some degenerate gamer that just sits there and stares at his screen 24/7 and makes like, $50 a day.
Yeah. I mean, it is hard to explain though. Like I think like even for instance like just gaming or like streaming or whatever, making content in general has always been like one of them ones where people will never understand it until you go, okay, like this is what I've earned, or like this is what I've done, and like, oh, okay, so that's what you've been doing. Now I understand more, rather than it just being like, oh, I play my game, because they'll be like, oh, what are you doing there sitting on your game all day? Like you're never gonna make anything out of it. But I suppose that's like back in the day, like I was saying, like back in the day, people like especially the old generation wouldn't understand that, because they're like, well, you need to like, actually have a career. Do you know what I mean? But that's where the best things come from. Like you said, like you didn't mean to fall into the career you're in now. You just sort of had a love for gaming, and then just kind of just went with it, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Just went off a whim. Yeah. Did you play like any other games before like Apex? Like for example, like battle royales, like Blackout or like PUBG?
I kind of hated Blackout. I played Fortnite a lot. When that was popular. And then before Fortnite, it was pretty much just 2K, FIFA, COD. That's pretty much it.
Right. Okay. To be fair, that's like the same sort of games that I played as well, like COD, FIFA, stuff like that. And then you kind of just get like, you kind of just fall into games. I kind of fell into like Apex as well. Like I just played like with two of my IRL friends, and I just kept playing and playing and playing, and then you just, I don't know, eventually, like I'll never get over like meeting people online. Like, was you ever like just talking to your IRL friends and then you just kind of fell into being online, or was you always like online? Because like for me, for example, me, like I never was like online at all before I actually started streaming. Like I would never go on Twitter, I'd never like post on Instagram, I'd never like, you know, all I ever used was literally like Snapchat and like WhatsApp to like message my friends. Like I would never do anything like online, like tweet or anything. I would never tweet, nothing, literally nothing.
I mean, I didn't have a Twitter. It genuinely wasn't until I got into like anything competitive that I downloaded socials and stuff like that.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I started off everything COD, FIFA, 2K, Fortnite was all just like strictly with IRLs. I think I met a few, like mates from solo queuing or duo queuing in squads on Fortnite, and then the same at the start of Apex. I'm still IRL friends with somebody that I met through Apex. Now, like we found out, we both live in Melbourne.
Yep.
And we're, you know, I honestly forget sometimes that I met him through Apex. But yeah, other than that, when I got into comp and all the updates and all the I guess little organizations that ran scrims and tournaments were on Twitter. I just kind of had to get Twitter.
Yeah.
And then I got into streaming on console. You used to just stream straight from your PlayStation. And then yeah, that's pretty much it. And as when you get better and better, as much as it like might sound bad to say, like you're trying to play with better people. So like a lot of the time I wouldn't play with my IRLs, and it's not anything to like even discredit them. I just played the game more than them.
Yeah.
They had other things to worry about, so I would play with the other people that played the game more than them.
Yeah. Then you just get better through that, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, well that wraps up that question. Okay, question 3. If you weren't competing, what do you think your career would look like right now?
As in, if I just never played Apex competitive.
Yeah, I guess we could say that. Yeah, if you didn't play Apex, like if you didn't get into the Apex scene like comp wise, like what do you think you'd be doing right now?
It's tough to say. I would probably have finished a uni degree by now, and I don't know which one that would have been because at the time I was tossing up between 3. I was studying commerce. Then I contemplated psychology, and then I studied teaching for a little bit whilst I was coaching. Because it was an easy degree to do whilst coaching.
Yeah.
My parents wanted me to be in uni whilst I was starting off, so that I had like a fallback plan. So if I never started playing, I probably would have just, kept doing my little commerce degree, and yeah, I don't know, I'd be a accountant sitting at a desk or something like that.
Do you think you prefer what you do now then, or like could you see yourself being an accountant now, or no? Do you see yourself like?
I mean, I definitely prefer what I do now. Like, I'm very privileged to do what I do and get paid to do it. But yeah, I mean, that's not to say that after this is done, I won't go and do that anyways.
Yeah, yeah. Did you talking about when you said about like being a teacher? Was that like PE? So like physical education? You do that like being a PE teacher? Was that
I
more
think it was
teaching general?
maths. It was maths and PE.
Okay, so you would have done a bit of both, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and you say you did 3 degrees, but you only went through with 1, or you would have done three degrees.
No, I was doing commerce.
Yeah.
Then when I got into competing and I, was putting a lot of time into that and shit got hectic, I deferred. And then I was working whilst I was competing, and then parents wanted me to go back to uni, so I was going to go and study psychology because it was something I had an interest in. Decided I didn't want to do that. And then I guess through more negotiating with my parents, they wanted me to do a uni degree. So I agreed to do teaching for a bit. And I was doing teaching whilst I was coaching, and then I got told I was moving overseas, so I can't really study anymore.
Right. Okay. So you kind of just have to choose between the teaching or going down the route of comp, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. Okay. I mean, it worked out for you, did it not?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. Exactly. Sometimes you got to take chances. Sometimes you have to take chances in life. Okay. Right. They're like the smaller questions. These now are all like the bigger ones.
Okay.
What made you switch from being a coach? What made you switch from being a player to a coach? I mean, I know you kind of said a bit about earlier how you just sort of fell into it, but I guess you could say like, would you still be a player now, or would you rather be a coach?
Okay, if I could do what I'm doing, like if I could be in the same position I'm in right now as a player, I'd do it because playing is fun.
Yeah.
That being said, it's also like, I don't know. It's a very hard to answer question. I would say what got me into it was just it was a little bit less time consuming at the time because as a coach, there is kind of like a fixed amount that you can do. And when I was doing a lot of other stuff like working in uni, it's easy to jump on, just watch games as much as I can. I have to be there to watch my team play, and then I'll watch vods, so I can learn the game more. But when you're a player, it's like there's not, you don't just clock on and do 6 hours. It's you have to do more than everyone else. And it was the same as when I played basketball. It's like, there's not like oh yeah, I'm done for the day. I've done enough today. It's like if you have time to do more, you do more because you have to beat everyone else. Like you're not competing with yourself, you're competing with everybody else. So I guess it was like a little less stressful for me at the time. And at the time it was also like I could just very clearly see like a better pathway for myself in esports as a coach than I could as a player. As a player, it's very volatile, you need to have good success to find an org, and then even if you find an org, unlikely that the salary is going to be even livable. And if it is, it's fine whilst you're 18, 19, but when you start to get older, you need more. And then the prize money is volatile. It obviously completely relies on how well you perform. So I just figured joining a good team, with a good organization was just, much more sustainable.
Yeah, the route for you to go down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than a player. Because I do feel like players, especially now, like they not flip flop, but a lot of people move and like switch and or get dropped and whatever. And I don't think that's as common for a coach, right? It's kind of just like you can't either run out your contract or you just leave if you don't like the team, sort of thing.
Yeah, there have been a few instances where coaches have been dropped or joined different teams, but I don't know. You have to be a pretty special individual to manage to get yourself dropped as a coach. You have to have done something pretty wrongly. You just have to have like almost like a bad personality for it.
Yeah, because I feel like half the time it's not, obviously you have to know the game inside out, but it's more like actually being like a support for everyone as well, as in like you're the person they go to, or like you're the person that needs to speak up when things aren't going great, or if they are going great, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's very easy, like when you're winning, to like everyone be so happy and everyone celebrating and all happy families and nothing's going wrong. But like when it's going bad, that's when like you kind of have to come into your forte, right, and actually like build people back up and go like, no, what you're doing isn't wrong. You just need to do this, or just don't get so beat up about like a certain performance or that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I do agree with you. I think it is hard for a coach to like get dropped because but then again, I also think that like you have to be the right person to be a coach. Like for example, like you, I know you've got like a very like loving personality. Like you're very like you're a people person, for example. That's what I was looking for. Like you're happy to talk to anyone and like you're happy to give advice and like hype someone up and stuff. Whereas like some people just can't find it in themselves to do that. They kind of like struggle with like the human, what's the word? Like the human like connection side of it, you know, rather than it just being
I would
like.
say
Go on.
it's by far my biggest strength as a coach, and it's the reason that I am where I am, is like my ability to, I guess, like build relationships and talk to people. I've always said, like, even since I got good at coaching, or I became, somewhat of an established coach, anytime any team or player asked me if I had any recommendations on who they should pick up as a coach, I would point out, like a past player, or a friend of theirs that was somewhat, well versed in Apex competitive, and tell them, grab him, help him learn the game, and he'll make your team better. Like, having a good relationship with this guy, and everybody on the team's, like, in a position where they can trust him, and speaking to him makes them feel better about the game, and it's an impartial, objective point of view. It's infinitely more valuable than somebody that has no social skills, no people skills, sits there, stares at an Apex wiki all day, so knows the cooldowns of every Legends abilities. It's night and day. So yeah, I would definitely say the people skills are just like, genuinely crucial.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think you do have that though. Like I think you do that well. And the point of you saying like you kind of have to go for the person, not just like their skill. I mean, I guess it's like a balance of like the person and how skilled they are, right? Because obviously a lot of people, it's easier to grow of someone who's willing and like able to like communicate with people than it is someone who's like a bit better, but they don't want to communicate and they're kind of like stuck in their own ways, right? Because then they're like having a block in front of themselves where they're never going to really progress because they're just, they're like, okay, well, I'm better than everyone, or, not have an ego, but like they don't, like you said, like they don't have like social skills, so they can't form bonds. Like it's not all about just having, the 3 best players in the world all play together, or like the 5 best teams in the world. It's more than just that. It's like the players as themselves as well, like their personalities. You have to like mesh them well, right? Because if you're never going to get on, if you're not going to get on, there's never going to work, is it? It's the same as like any sport, literally any sport. Like if they don't like the manager, like they don't want to play, they don't want to work for them. If they don't like a certain player, like they're not going to, for example, in football, pass to them, for example. Like you have to have the right personalities, not just based solely off skill. Like some teams just don't mesh well, even though they're like the best, and that's just sports in general. Which is why I think coaches are so important, especially in like, for example, Apex and that. But yeah, that's also why they're so important in other sports, like tactics wise and like being people person. What's the word? Being like a people person. Like it helps. I feel like it helps certain people, and like when you hear about stories, for example, like Alex Ferguson, for example, like he's management tactics and like what he did with players and like how he helped them and stuff like that. It makes it. That's why they were so successful, because of his like management skills. Rather than it just being like, oh, I'm just going to assemble the best 11 squad I know and what we can afford, and then just hope that it goes well,
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, next question. Name some of the pros and cons to being a coach.
A pro and a con at the same time, depending on how you look at it, is that a match day isn't up to you. You know what I mean? Like you've already done your job up to that point, and your day in a match day is pretty much just making sure everybody keeps their heads up. And even if you're in last place going into game 6, they've got faith that they can bring it back. But besides that, you have no control realistically over what happens. You can make bad situations better. But yeah, so I mean, it's like nerve-wracking when I go into a game day and I'm like, I have no control over what happens today. Like I hope they play well. But at the same time, you get to just sit there and lock in on your, what is your task, which is just making sure that their heads stay up and on their shoulders. Besides that, I would say the time thing that I was talking to you about before, as a player, you kind of just feel like if somebody else is playing the game more than you or just grinding harder than you are, you just kind of feel like you need to do more. Whereas when you're a coach, there is kind of like a fixed amount.
Yeah.
You can always just watch the game more, but as long as you're watching your team and you're taking some time out of your day to watch some vods, you're doing your job. Like you're doing more than enough. Yeah, I'd say that's about it. The
Yeah.
rest are pretty similar.
Yeah. Do you think there's any like differences in being a player to a coach? As in like I know you said about like as a player you always want to get better, so you're always competing against yourself, but you're also competing with everyone else. But coaching is more like there's like a block where you can get to. But do you feel like being a player is a lot harder than being a coach, or the other way around? Like, for example, do you think that coaches don't get as much credit as what the players do?
I mean, I would say real coaches like never get credit. Teams. I don't know. I'll see it on Reddit all the time with YouTube comments or Twitter, where the public starts talking about how different the team's environment looks, or how this team looks like they've really started to click. And you'll never see a comment about like oh, this coach is like doing a really good job. No matter who it is, I think even when SSG were the most dysfunctional team in the world, and Don's kind of made them put their heads together and work together for a month and one event. It was I still don't know if I really saw much about it. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't really seeing. Don's like done a really good job keeping this team together, like and helping them get to where they got to. It was just kind of like, wow, like SSG finally won LAN.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
you definitely get a lot less credit as a coach. I don't think anybody. A lot of the time, people don't really understand what you do. But yeah, at the same time, being a player is still, definitely harder. If I show up to scrims and I'm having an off day, you know what I mean? Like, brain's just not clicking the same. I point out something after a couple of games and it's just not really what needed to be pointed out. Like, if I have an off day, it's not really a big deal. I've just said the wrong thing a couple of times, and worst case, I've provoked discussion. You know what I mean? Like, I've made them talk about what went wrong, and they probably came to the right conclusion themselves. As a player, if you have an off day, you've probably just fucked your team's practice, or you've just fucked your team's day.
Yeah, true. Especially at like bigger events and stuff like LGS and whatnot.
Yeah.
I suppose that's kind of one of the pros of being a coach, right? Like, yeah, you have to do loads of work, but like, you don't kind of get the backlash. But then you also don't get the praise when you deserve praise. Like what you said about Don, where he, they won on SSG. Like, yeah, you don't really hear. You just hear like, oh, Triple Controller team won, or you hear, oh, like SSG won their first LAN, but you don't hear like, oh, Don helped them to get to there, and like he made them. But I mean, I suppose more than anyone, like being in that actual environment, but kind of from the outside, people probably won't see that because they're not like in the bubble of like an esport. If that makes sense.
It's funny with my team. There was literally a Reddit post the other day about wow, like the Falcons environment seems so much better right now. Like I wonder what's going on. And what I mean, like if anything like that happens, it's never like nobody looks any deeper into it than the players just playing well, they're all getting along better now. That's good. That's good, man.
Yeah, no one does look into it like that. But I mean, that's just Reddit, I suppose. Reddit is a weird place. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, they wouldn't even give you credit even if you won it. So I don't know. They're probably just I don't know what the Reddit users are very strange individuals. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, Reddit's a dangerous place.
Oh, it is. But do you go on it a lot, or no? Do you just kind of just
No. The only reason I clicked on it was because I saw a post about Falcons. So I looked at the title.
Right. Okay, I had to look at it. Yeah, I mean, that's also just been online though. People never like to give credit to anyone. They just. I said this on the podcast before. Like, no one likes to compliment each other and say like, you're doing well at the minute, or what you did was good. Like, it's easier for them to go, oh, I wonder why, or like, why is that happening then? Like, they'd never really like, even if it's right in front of them, they still won't do it. They'd rather just hate.
That's a sports thing for the most part. Like a lot of the time when you kind of like run on the threshold of going from, like a semi-pro or an amateur to a pro, there's a lot of kind of angst and animosity and envy, I would say. A lot of the time people will make up excuses as to why you did better than they did, as opposed to just giving credit where credit's due. It's like even when teams win LAN, and I'm guilty of it myself. Oh, but they were lucky, they didn't deserve it. This and this happened. If this happened to us, we would have won as well. Like it's easy to get caught up like in that sort of a mindset.
Yeah.
And I think I would genuinely say 98% of the competitive scene have that sort of a mindset. And it honestly kind of like stunts growth, because you just sit there and cope about what you could have done better or what went wrong, and instead just talk about how gifted and fortunate the other people got.
Yeah. I think that's just, like you said, sports as well, like very, very, very fine margins. Like there's,
Yeah,
I'm sure you do it loads of times where, you lose like a game, or like you'll lose like a scrim block, and you think, oh, on game 3, if we just did that there at that time, or if that didn't happen on that game, like we could have done this. And you go like back on yourself and start like kind of like self-sabotaging yourself, even though sometimes it might be out of your hands, or yeah, okay, you might have made a mistake, but at the time you thought that might have been the right thing to do, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I like you said, I think that is like any sport. Like any sport is like that. It's just small margins that can just completely change the outcome of like the game or whatever. But you just kind of can't let it eat you up. But do you think, like when you said about like the 98%, do you think that's egos, or do you just think that's just competitive like drive?
It's like naivety and immaturity more than anything else. I think it might even be like a lack of experience thing. But a lot of the time when you're starting off in a, like, I'll give you I'll speak in like basketball terms, because it's more like generalized.
Mm-hmm.
But when I came up through juniors, you can see it everywhere. It happened to me. I probably did it to other people as well, where you just see somebody do well, make a team, move up a level, and you just think like, how are you getting these opportunities? I'm better than you. Instead of thinking like, well, he did this and this, and he's done this and this. Like, yeah, he might have gotten fortunate to have gotten that opportunity, but he's like done the right things to get himself there, and he obviously did the right thing to capitalize on the opportunity. And you see that like early levels, and then as you get further and further up, it kind of like, it's still there, but it's not as apparent. And then I would say the exact same thing happens in Apex, whereby you'll see somebody do well in Challenger Circuit. You'll be like, well, like they just got lucky that they suck, they're shit. And then you'll see them, like, or they'll hit Pred, and you'll say the same thing. They're just degenerately grinding the game. They're playing cringe. Then they'll eventually make a pro league team, and you do the same thing. You just sit there and cope, and you're not kind of like, taking a step back to figure out what it is that they're doing to get themselves into these positions, and find themselves these opportunities. And it just means, like you kind of like just screwing yourself over by fixating on shit that you can't control.
Yeah. I think that's just it's just an easy thing to point, isn't it? And be like, they don't deserve that. They don't deserve this. Like, why are they there and why am I not? I feel like a lot of people kind of like default to that opinion, or like that mentality where they're like, well, why are they getting this? Why are they getting that? Rather than being like, why am I not getting that? And why are, you kind of have to like look at yourself in the mirror sometimes.
Yeah, 100%.
But it is tough. I do think it is tough in the same sense, like the same like side of it. Like, it is tough sometimes to see people get like certain things that you think you deserve, and then you're like, well, kind of like, why do they deserve this over me? Not even in like a horrible like way where you're like thinking they don't deserve it. It's just more like, well, why didn't I kind of get that as well? Or like, why didn't I get that? But then I guess that does go back to you being like, well, okay, now you'd have to work on myself. Like, for example, like I know online a lot, I spoke about this as well before, people that get like opportunities in like gaming and like content and stuff, a lot of people I know I've seen a lot of people like say, you know, like, oh, that person doesn't deserve this, like openly as well, like on Twitter, for example, like they'll say, you know, oh, they didn't get this and they don't deserve this and blah 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 blah. I never understand when people do that because it always makes you look like the bad person. Like you're never gonna look good in that situation.
Even if the person you're talking about didn't deserve whatever opportunity they got, it doesn't matter. Nothing you do or say is going to have that opportunity revoked.
Yeah.
So there's no point fixating on it at all.
Yeah. I just think some people online are kind of like they don't understand. Like they just see, like they just say stuff and say comments and don't really think of like the repercussions of what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Like especially on Twitter, like they'll just say the most outrageous things and then expect people to go, oh yeah, we want to work with you, or, you know, we'll do this. And yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird one. I mean, I've had it a few times where, I mean, I had it recently where I got the, what was it? I got the drops for the, like the first time, the exclusive ones where like if you gift, you get like a skin or whatever. And a comment that stuck with me, I don't know why, that someone said to me, I don't know why I didn't get this, but congrats. And I was just thinking to myself, that is such a weird comment. Like, that is such a weird comment. Like, you might as well have just said, you don't deserve this. I do. Like, why have you got this? Like, you've just worded it in a different way. And, like, it didn't affect me because, like, I don't let things like that affect me. But I never really understand why people do that on posts or, like, on streams or, like, on certain things. Like, people always think of themselves rather than thinking of the person who's getting it. And like, I'm not like an egotistical guy. Like, I don't need you to, you know, blow smoke up my ass and tell me I'm doing amazing. But like, you don't know me, so why are you saying that to me? You know, like there's just a random person just commented that I don't follow. No one follows. Like, it's kind of just like, why would you say that? Like, you know?
Yeah, I mean the same. I get you. The same thing like happened to me when I was starting off coaching. You know what I mean? Like, I had this stigma when I used to play with Waltzy all the time that I was shit at the game because I always had moments where like my brain would lapse because I just can't pay attention or like lock in for that amount of time playing ranked, you know, when there's nothing on the line. Or he would just have way more damage than me in a game. And I tried telling everybody it's not me being bad, it's him being better than everyone else. Like,
yeah,
you just need to trust me. And then I ended up making Pro League, and I had a bunch of people like, how the fuck has he done that? He must have got carried. I played with like an IRL mate, effectively, like Fussy and one of our other mates who didn't play the game very much at all. And then, you know, the same thing happened the entire time. Kept getting like questioned every time I made a new team. Then, you know, I got into coaching. It was like, what? Like, he just got the job because he's Waltzy's mate, which, to be honest with you, is 90% of the reason that, or it's like the reason I got a look in for the job. So I didn't even really care about hearing that at the time. And then I would move further and further up and hear less and less of those comments. And then, you know, it got to a point where, you know, I was with Guild, Timmy, Guild, Waltzy and Empty, and then Guild, Timmy, and Waltzy and NA. And, the comments pretty much completely died down. And then I got to Falcons, and once I was on Falcons, you don't hear the comments at all anymore. I've kind of like proven that I'm good at what I do. But yeah, no, you definitely just still hear the same comments the whole time. You know, like, oh, this guy used to suck at this. Like, how is he here? And it's like, you know, I don't know. If anything, I kind of just feel bad for people like that. If I've not spoken to you or heard of you in months and months and months, and you're still talking about me, then, you know, you've got an issue, bud.
Yeah. I don't know. I just find it really strange. Like, I just find comments like that. Like, I'd rather, like, for example, what you were saying, I'd rather someone actively say it than actually just beat around the bush and be like,
like
say they deserve it. Yeah, the backhanded, like, kind of compliments, like, well done, but, like, how did you get that? Like, it's kind of just, I just don't say that. Like, even with you, like, what, like, people saying you don't deserve it and you only got there because of this.
None of that was said to me. It was said to other people, and I heard about it.
Yeah, of course, because people would never say that to you, which is just... Yeah, some people would just scared of your aura. Yeah. my god. Okay, we kind of went off on a tangent on that one, but okay. What advice would you give to aspiring comp players looking to either play or coach in an esport? So I guess you can just say Apex first, or just in general. It's up to you, really.
It's tricky. I would say the only like advice I can give that I can really stand on is what is pretty much what we were just saying, talking about in regards to, you know, locking in and focusing on yourself and not really fixating on what's happening to people around you. The more you worry about the progress of others, the less you're worrying about your own. Which I would say, you know, is kind of like numero uno. Other than that, when it comes to esports, like generally, and not necessarily getting better, but like making it in esports, you can be so good. You can be have an amazing personality and have everything that it takes to be a streamer. You know, you can be really good at the game and you just kind of need that experience and a little bit of help getting to that next level, and you just won't get the opportunity. Like you just won't get the look in. And that's possible. That's how it works. You need to have a little bit of luck regardless of how good you are. Like somebody needs to find you, somebody needs to give you a chance. You know, like a community needs to take a chance on you and start, you know, you need to build viewers up, whatever. So esports being as kind of volatile as it is in the sense of making a career, I would say you just always need something else going on. You need somewhat of like a fallback plan. If you're doing it while studying, it's fine. You know, if you've been working for years and years and you've got a bunch of savings and you want to take a chance for like a year or two on it, that's fine as well. But yeah, the only thing I would very strongly advise against is just putting all your eggs in one basket off of nothing, because it's just, you could be perfect and it just might not pan out the way you want it to.
Yep. I mean, I feel like a lot of people do kind of fall into the trap of like just fully focusing on like one set thing, and then when that thing doesn't go the way they plan, they kind of don't have anything, and they're just like, well, now I'm a bit lost, you know. But I think people, you know, it is good to have like an obsession with something. It is good to be like obsessed with wanting to get better at something or wanting to make it in something. But you do kind of also have to have like the backing behind you, you know? Like you can't just solely do it yourself. Like you kind of need, and you know, it's a bit of everything, right? It's a bit of, you know, a bit of skill, a tiny bit of luck, you know, knowing the right people, or like you need to have like a break. You need to have that one break where you think, okay, well now I can actually do this, and not where you're just like plateauing and you're just sort of just drifting along and floating around like everyone else. You need to like make a name for yourself, but do it in a way where you think, right, okay, this is something I can actually pursue now, rather than it being like, okay, maybe I could, maybe I couldn't, you know?
Yeah, pretty much.
But I think that's just like any career, really. You know, obviously, like actual 9-to-5 jobs are a bit more sustainable than that, because, you know, you have an actual, you know, you have a contract, you have like your set hours, you have et cetera, like that's a path you're going on. And even if you do go out of that job, you have all the experience you need to go into the next job. Whereas this is kind of like, what do you go and do next, you know? If you're not doing this now, where do you go? Like, you know, if Apex stopped tomorrow, like, where would you go? Like, what would you go and do, you know?
Exactly.
So, but yeah, I think that's people just, when they're younger, they kind of just want to make it so bad that they just set their heart on it, you know, because they've got the time to grind and the time to like put effort into it. And then the older you get, you're more like, okay, maybe I should start thinking a bit more in the future and not just in the now, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, next question. What are some things you have to do as a coach that some people might not know? So I've put in brackets like loot paths, vods, one-on-ones with people.
Okay, so this one, I would say loot paths are pretty straightforward. Everybody knows that you have to do loot paths. VOD reviews should be the same thing. You should have come to the same conclusion yourself. I would say the biggest one, I'm going to contradict myself a little bit here, is like your relationships. So I've seen shit on Twitter in the past, or like, I've seen it happen quite a bit, where a coach and a player will have like a massive argument about the game, and there might be like a little falling out. It happens in CC a lot. Coach will leave the team. One of the players will get dropped because they argued with the coach. That's not how esports works.
Yep.
Like, maybe, or at the very least, it's not how Apex works. Your job, my job, right, is to make life as easy as possible for my three players. So I have a good relationship with all three of them. I understand that they're all three completely different individuals that take to feedback differently. Um, so, and if one of them are ever getting shitty at me or pissy at me, I will get annoyed, but I'm not going to crash out on them, because my job is to make that stop, make whatever negative feeling they're feeling right now stop as quickly as possible. So yeah, I would say that whole aspect of it, the more than coaching kind of aspect, where it's not just this is how you get better at the game. It's like, somebody will critique the way. A good example, when I was relatively fresh to coaching, I would say my first or second actual international event where I was their official coach. I was with Waltzy, Pricey, Empty, and our first scrim block of international scrims, we won the first 3 games in a row. And by the third one, we had like a 3v2 or a 3v1 in the end zone and almost lost the fight. And we like laughed and chuckled about it. And it was, and I unmuted and said, like, good shit, boys. But, this is just the start of our international practice. We've got a LAN in a month. Let's make sure we're locking in. We're not trolling, because we're trolling a bit. And, make sure, we're playing properly the entire way through the game.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Ben chirped up, Waltzy chirped up and got a bit shitty at me. And I was like, Matt, Empty and Pricey were in agreement with me. They kind of knew that what I said was right. But, Waltzy, although probably agreed with what I said, was just got shitty at me and was like, I'm not trolling. And I was like, well, we are, man. Like, we've almost just lost that game when we had a free win. And we had like a little argument then and there. He got really shitty at me. We kind of just, I let him play the next game and I just said nothing. We had a talk after the games, and it was basically, he just didn't like the fact that I told him, you were trolling. You were taking the piss, right? Because he wasn't taking the piss, he's just not played something well. Or like, it was specifically that word that he hated. Right? Like, he just didn't like being told that. And I could have sat there and been like, that's pretty stupid to just get worked up over me using like a trigger word, like a word that you don't like. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter his reasoning. It doesn't matter why. Like, if he doesn't like the word and he doesn't want me to include that in any feedback I give them ever, I won't. It's that simple.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's like an immaturity or an ego thing, but a lot of people, players and coaches alike in esports, don't seem to grasp that, and it's just kind of like you're a child for thinking that I'm going to do what I want, and that's just not how coaching works.
Yeah, you kind of just have to like, you kind of have to just bite your tongue sometimes and just agree to disagree, even if you don't actually agree.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, like you say, like, he got annoyed over a word. I mean, people have different, like you said, everyone has different personalities and different ways to take feedback. Some people can deal with tough love. Some people can't. Like, it's just who people are, like, you now know, like, coaching people more, that like, you can't say certain things, or you wouldn't talk to Waltzy the way you talk to Zero or Hal. They all have like their own ways of giving and receiving feedback, right?
Yeah, I mean, with Empty, Guild and Waltzy, we had perfect example, right? Like, there was a day that we were, again, doing stupid shit. We lost a fight that we should have won for free because all 3 players played it poorly. And I got mad. I got annoyed, and I raised my voice when I told them they're just being stupid. And for Empty, it locked him in, you know what I mean? Like, it was, you're right, I'm being an idiot, like, we're just being stupid, we're wasting our practice, and it locked him in. guild, kind of like thought nothing of it. But if I was to like genuinely yell at him, he would just disassociate. He'd just switch off. He'd pretty much not take in anything I said, and then it would just make Ben mad. Like if I was yelling at Ben, it would make him mad. So it was like 3 people that took that form of feedback very, very differently, which makes it tricky.
Yeah, that is very tricky. I'm not gonna lie. But do you feel like when you give feedback to all 3, do you kind of like have to do it individually as well, or do you just kind of have to like, for example, like throw the grenade and just see what happens? Like with the feedback you just said, like of course you knew that you might have known that MT might have taken it in a positive way, but the other 2 not as much. Like, do you still in your head want to say the same thing, or do you like say it in a way where you know everyone's going to understand it more?
Yeah, you kind of just have to like adapt and give it in the most neutral way possible. Like if I say it, like friendly, like come on, boys, like that was pretty dumb. Like let's lock in and get the most out of the next few games. Whilst it might be good for Ben, Empty's also like, like whatever. Like but he's not really going to take that in because it doesn't really mean anything to him. It sounds like I'm just saying words. But it's kind of just like finding the middle ground, I guess. A lot of the time, feedback can be directed at an individual, so you can just say it as objectively as possible and emotionless as possible. But it's just those ones that are tricky when there's like, like it's a discipline or accountability issue, and you have to, like keep the whole team in check. Predominantly, it honestly is like I believe this at the very least, that if it's a discipline issue and you do get frustrated, as long as I'm not, like yelling or being condescending, it's fine. I get my message across, even if it does tilt somebody a little bit. It's kind of like, hopefully they focus that energy in the right place. But yeah, you're never really going to keep all 3 people happy 24/7. You're going to have moments, but it's just, I don't know, a big component of it, I think, is just like the trust that I was coming from the right place, or that if they get shitty at it, it's like they're not coming from the wrong one.
Yeah. So to answer that question, you basically think that like the player side of it and like the sort of management is like the thing that people don't really see as much, like regarding like that you said, like loot paths, vods, etc. You think that might be like one of the biggest things that people don't get to see is like how people receive and take feedback.
Just how important your relationships are and your communication.
Yep. Okay. Next question. Do you think there are any differences in regions when competing? And then in brackets, since you've competed both in like OCE and NA.
Yes.
I feel like you've got a lot to say on this one.
Holy shit, yes. Apex South is a different world. It is just insane, and it's derived from the fact that a lot of the players don't, like live and breathe the game. They're just really good, so they jump on and they're better than everybody else they play against. But I don't know. It's a mixture of people that don't care to learn the right way to play the game, and then people that don't have the time to. Whereas in NA, like 20 out of 30 of the pro teams at all times, like put their fucking lives into the game. So they're actively improving each day and they get better and better and better. But yeah, Apex South is just kind of a bunch of mechanical freaks that are all insane at the game, that are very sporadic and unpredictable. And then NA is just a lot more well thought through, all in all better players. Like maybe as far as M&K goes, I think Apex South has way better M&K talent. But everybody in NA just understands the game better. You're constantly playing against better teams and better players, which means you improve at a better rate. And then Apex South, you're effectively just waiting. If you're one of the good teams, you're effectively just waiting for an international event to come around, so you can play against better teams to get the right practice. Because unfortunately, you know, a lot of the good Apex South players have retired because there wasn't enough money in it, or you know, couldn't find a team. A big issue in Apex South that I think a lot of people from other regions neglect is the language barrier. So you know, like APAC North has the Koreans and the Japanese, which is two different languages. They can't play together, but like two big countries, so one divide. Whereas APAC South just has like so many different little divides and language barriers. So Australians or English speaking players have to stick with each other. You know, Thai players have to stick to each other. Indonesian players have to stick to each other. Chinese or Taiwanese players have to stick to each other. And it just means it just makes it a lot harder. You know what I mean? Like they can't put together teams as good as maybe they could have if they could all speak the same language.
Yeah. You got like a smaller pool of like players you can choose from, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Like you just you see it happen every split. You can see the best team from each country, if you know what I mean. Like there's the best Thai team, which is Makers or Green Stego, the best Indonesian team, which is, you know, pretty much whatever team Easy Flash is on at the time. Best Australian teams, best couple Australian teams, best couple Chinese teams. But yeah, it's makes it harder for them all to learn because it also means they can't go and watch VODs and they have no idea what the other person's saying.
Yeah, there's
I would say they're the main differences.
A lot of different like barriers you have to get through. I also think as well, guy, like I just point out something you said there about like opportunities. Like I feel like especially NA, like even like the big cash cups and stuff, like that's massive. That could be massive for like an APAC region, for example. Like I know like a lot of OCE don't get like these big, not even maybe cash cups, but like just like tournaments in general where, you know, a spotlight can be shown on them, you know, like in NA you've just got like a lot more advertisement and a lot more like exposure onto things like this, like Twitch Rivals. You've got like oversight tournaments. You've got like even like when they had like female comp and they did like a lot of like cash cups with that and like whatnot. Like I feel like that side of it as well with NA and, you know, even sometimes EU as well, is you get these opportunities more so then people can see you in a different way and like you know the lights shine on you. Whereas when it's APAC it's very hard because there's not really much going on the majority of the time, especially for like esports, you know, just on top of all the other stuff that's going on. Because I know like quite a lot of the OCE community and they're always saying like they don't really have a lot going on, and like obviously a lot of like I know long shot is not a thing now apparently too. So yeah, it's like it's just one of them where unfortunately being in that region is just, you know, you have to just take it and there's not really much you can do. Like it's just the way the region is, you know. It's not
I mean,
a lot of money in it.
There's a reason that every time an Australian team has, you know, had constant international success, they've been moved to America.
Yeah, it's quite common, right?
Happened 2 seasons in a row. You know, Rig or Zero Gen and Sharky looked untouchable in APAC South, so they got moved to NA. Then Moist looked untouchable in APAC South, so we got moved to NA.
Yeah,
just kind of how it works. Better for practice, better for exposure, better for success as a whole.
Yeah, 100%. To be fair, I forgot Rig were on APAC South. I completely forgot about that, and then they moved, didn't they? And that was just after they became DraugrAU, right? Or just before? Yeah. I mean, it just makes sense as like even like just as them as people like to like build their brand outside of just being an Apex Pro. Like it dramatically improves it because they're playing with people at the same time. They're on the same schedules. They're in and around that. You know, it kind of just you just fall into it. You know. Okay, next question. How important do you think mental health is in a highly competitive esport?
Insanely important. It's the same as any sport, and I've said this for the longest time about Apex and basketball. You know, confidence is everything. Like it is unbelievably important. And if your mental isn't in it and it's affecting your own confidence, you're going to be so much worse of a player. Even, mental as far as like team chemistry goes, your team's going to perform worse because if somebody's worried about making a mistake because they're going to get yelled at, they're more likely to make a mistake. If a player's not confident in themselves, they're less likely to make an aggressive play that would have won them the fight. They'll just sit there and do nothing until they eventually get killed. Mental health or like mental resilience in anything competitive is like invaluable.
Yep. I honestly think so as well. I knew you'd like want to talk about this question because I feel like a lot of people don't speak about it. People sometimes think that competitors are just robots and they get on, they play the game, they get off, do it the next day. Like, you have things going on outside of your life that can affect certain things. Like, obviously I'm not going to say what happened, but I know, like, for example, you had something you went through like recently and like, that can affect you. Like, it can affect the way you think. It can affect like how much time you have to put into something. It can affect, it's like a domino effect, right? Where you have that one thing that's bad or something that's not right in your life and it can just spiral. And then it just goes into all aspects of your life, like your career, your relationships. Like it can just spiral and spiral. I don't know where I heard this, but I know you guys have a mental health coach, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah. Falcons have multiple psychs.
Right. Okay. Is that like physical as well, or just mental?
No, we have a physio as well.
Right.
But can't do that online, obviously.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think the mental side of it is something that people don't take into account. Especially like being a bigger team or like being in a team that's in the spotlight every now and then, you're going to get critics and you're going to get people, talking shit about you. And if you have to read that and you're not in the right frame of mind, it can like kind of make you, doubt yourself and think that you're not as good as you are, or,
I think my favorite little oxymoron is the Falcons fans that will sit there and very harshly criticize the team or an individual on the team, and then expect that to have any kind of an improvement. Like, a Reddit comment or a YouTube comment, hey, Falcons fan here, such and such had such a fucking terrible couple of days. Like, they're genuinely, like costing the team games. They're a liability. Players like, he's going to read that and think, hey, this guy's right, I need to be better. It's like, no, you're going to sit there, see a bunch of random motherfuckers on the internet complaining about your performance of late, and it's going to get in their head and they're going to get worse. Like, that's not how it works.
Yeah. I think, go on, sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, like, that's just, I don't know. That's
it comes part and parcel. Yeah, it comes part and parcel with that, right? It's just like anything. Yeah. People have always got something to say, even if they don't think they're saying anything wrong. Like, I don't know how many amount of times you've seen someone and they'll say something to someone and then they'll bite back and they'll go, oh no, I didn't mean it that way. And it's like, maybe you should think about the way you're wording and saying things online to like people you don't really know that well,
It's the same as whenever a professional esports player or athlete talks about mental health, has a mental health issue, takes, like a brief hiatus to get their mental health in check, you just see an influx of comments and backlash talking about, like, you are rich, you get paid so much money to do what you do, you're living everybody else's dream. Like, I wish I'm a tradesman. I wish I was sitting at my desk playing video games all day. And it's like that. You dickheads need to understand that just because, this person's in somewhat of an admirable position, that doesn't mean they can't feel emotions anymore. Like, that's not how it works.
No, true. I do think as well, like, people that are very small-minded, like, I'll use an example. Like, you are going to complain about things that I think, oh, why is he complaining about? But because I'm not in your bubble of like the way you work, you won't understand it. Do you know what I mean? Like I use, for example, I use Lex as an example. Like sometimes I can't go to her to certain things, you know, as much as I love her and like I want to talk to her about things. Sometimes I just can't talk to her about certain things because I know she kind of won't understand it unless she's in that area, you know? Same way as if she says, you know, I'm at work and this thing's happened, like I'm kind of not going to understand the way she's thinking because I'm not in that line of work or I'm not in that headspace of it. But I think people see that as like, for example, like you, like people might see that as like, oh, he's just, you know, like what you're saying, oh, you know, he's got money and blah, blah, blah. And like, why is he moaning about that? But to you, that's an issue. Like, that's an issue in your life that, yeah, okay, you've got, you know, some other benefits, but that's not the point. Like, you're not caring about that at this point. You're caring about what's going on currently and the situation that you're in, you know? And then it goes back to people being like, oh, well, you're entitled. Like, you know, I've got to do this and I do that and I have to worry about this. And it's like, sometimes people get detached from like what you're actually saying rather than it being like, hey guys, like I'm having an issue with like this. Can anyone help me? Or I just need a few days to myself, or, you know, like I think that just happens in any like line of work where you're kind of not doing better than someone, but you're in a different area of work as someone and they're not going to understand it because they're not in that line of work and they'll never get why you think like that, you know? Like even like with like content creators and sometimes pros who moan about certain things of the game, and people are like, why are you moaning about the game? You sit there and play that all day, you get paid loads and you live a privileged life. And it's like, well, you're kind of missing the point and not doing that because they don't want the game to succeed. They're doing that because they want it. And then people are like, oh, but the game's only catering towards this set of people and it's only doing this. And it's like, but people are not moaning. It's because they want the best for the game. They want the best for the overall point is they want the best, but it kind of gets like shadowed out because of the position they're in, you know? Which is sad, to be honest, but I guess that's just one of them things that people can't get their head around. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just one of them ones. Yeah, most people can't relate to that work ethic. Yeah. So then they kind of not play the like poor me card, but it's more like they play like, well, you're in this position, so why are you thinking this way? And it's like, well, you don't know me. You don't know the way I'm thinking.
Same as whenever a pro complains about like the rank system, like when they say the pro says they're getting bored, like the rank system needs to change shit. And somebody just says like, you know, you play video games, you can't talk about getting bored. It's like, okay, but I make a lot of money playing said video games, and if that experience can, you know, get even 2% better, of course they're going to, you know, advocate for that.
Yeah. I think that's...
Yeah, I don't know. Everybody's very, I don't know, not closed-minded, more like narrow-minded.
Yeah. Quick to judge.
Like this. Yeah.
Quick to judge. But that's what I'm saying. Even that, like, people want the best of the game. Like, people want the best of things, but it kind of comes across as not like that, you know, because they're like, well, you play the game, so why are you moaning? It's like, well, you know, if I didn't like the game, I wouldn't say anything. You know, it's not always... Yeah. You have a lot of pros, but, you know, you can talk about the cons, but as soon as you kind of talk about the cons, people are like, why are you saying that? Like, you're just moaning all the time, and I don't know. It's just one of them ones that I don't think people will ever understand, but yeah, it's just hard. It's just hard to talk to people sometimes when they're not, like, in your same headspace as them, you know? But yeah, okay, I think we have 2 more questions. How do you deal with the negativity that comes with being a part of one of the biggest orgs in Apex?
At the start, it was a really weird little period. I went from Moist, like with Timmy and Guild, where we were effectively fan favorites. I don't think you could really have hated that team. You know what I mean? Like, just Timmy's very friendly and has a very positive online personality. Guild's just almost too fucking positive at times. Like, he's just a happy little fuck. So, like, there was no reason to dislike us. Like, everybody liked us. If anybody disliked anything, it was that, like, Waltzy used to talk shit. But, you know, more often than not, we were, you know, supported by everyone. And then I joined Falcons, and you go from like this this team's been really good for a long time and deserve to have some success. To if these guys don't win a tournament, they fucking suck now. Like they're shit. So it was pretty funny going through BLGS and just looking at all the YouTube comments. Like whenever a video came out, and we had a bad weekend or a bad couple scrim blocks. I knew what I was getting myself into because I'd already seen it a fair bit with Falcons. And it was like, sometimes it like kind of like I was taken aback, but I don't know. It didn't take me very long, and it didn't really affect me much. I kind of just got to a point where I don't know. When I see comments now, I just fucking piss myself. So if they're like negative but they're funny, well done. Like you got me, or you got us. Like that was a good comment. But if it's just like just random brain rot criticism, it's just I don't know, you just kind of feel sorry for them. It's like probably time to put the laptop down and go outside, buddy. Like, move on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like you said, that's probably going to be your hardest thing, right? Is moving from like Moist to like Falcons. You knew what you're getting into yourself into because of just like the stature of the org and also the team that you have, right? That always invites pressure, but that also doesn't mean that like you deserve that pressure. Like even when you win now, it's kind of like, well, they should be winning, and when they don't win, why aren't they winning? It's kind of like. Yeah, I don't really understand that, but I guess that is just one of them things that is just in any sport where a team with, for example, the best team or the most money or whatever it is, they're always expected to win, and when they do win, it's like, well, they should win, and then when they don't, it's like, well, they suck, like you said, they're shit, and I don't know, it's just one of them ones that's just stupid, but yeah, but that's another question I actually have. Would you go back to like, so say for instance now you could keep, you're on like Falcons, but you had the same as what you had on Moist, so you have like the same like, what's the word? Like the same like level of negativity there. Or like you said, you didn't really have much on Moist compared to Falcons. Like, would you take that, or would you still want to be in the position where, yeah, you're getting negativity, but it kind of drives you to like get better and be better? Or do you not care?
This is gonna sound really cliche. I'm never like really a fan of going backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Like even like obviously it's like a hypothetical, but I mean like everything that I've done, I did it for a reason. Everything that's happened has happened for a reason. Everything bad that's happened, I've learned from. And everything good that's happened, I've earned. So it's kind of just like I made a decision to move Falcons, and I just take the good with the bad. Obviously, my situation with Moist would have been a lot worse if we were just constantly getting hated on. But no, I don't think I'd change anything. I think I'd stay here.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I think you're, you like you said, you don't want to look backwards, and you always want to try and improve, right?
Yeah.
And like obviously, like you thinking back to then, you're kind of like, well, as much as you loved it, you kind of want to progress and not think back to being on other teams and whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. What is your favorite memory of being involved in Apex? Or I guess you could say esport.
Good question.
That's why I'm here, mate. I've silenced him.
It'd just be a moment at a LAN. So I don't know. Going to my first LAN was pretty surreal. Kind of realizing that the game that I'm very heavily affiliated can put on events like the one that I was at. I was like, this is insane. I think getting asked to sign signatures was. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like,
yeah.
And then I would come back to Melbourne, go to some sort of a gaming convention event in Melbourne, and have people be like, "Oh my god, are you DraugrAU?" And I was like, "Don't say that. Like, that's weird. Don't do that." No, it was like No, I don't know. I can't really pinpoint one, man. There's just been a whole bunch.
Just the whole thing, yeah.
Like walking out at lands is really cool. Winning games in finals at lands, very cool. Um, one of my favorite moments every land is when everybody first gets there, like the day everybody arrives, and just seeing everybody again for the first time after a couple months. It's always really nice. The Japan land was fucking incredible. It was like walking into the stadium the first day. We went through the wrong entrance. We got dropped off at the wrong entrance, so we're just walking past a bunch of the fans and watching them freak out about like Zero and Hal was like funny as fuck. And then the meet and greet was insane. The walkout was insane. Every time we won a game, it was insane.
Yeah, just like,
Yeah.
do you feel like it's the personal level, or like when you go to these events, you realize that, you're like, you're him. You know what I mean?
Definitely not him.
No, sorry. Not him. I was trying to see if I'd bait you out there. But no, like, as in, like, you kind of realize that people, like, look up to you and go, like, wow, that's this person. Or, it's like the fan side of it. Whereas, like, you kind of don't feel like you have fans, but you're like, it's cool to see, like, just the energy of the crowd and stuff like that. Like, when you win games, like you said.
I think being, like, idolized at all is pretty fucking surreal. Like, knowing that I've got people that are, in a sense, like, in times, like, nervous to meet me is insane. It's, like, strange as. Yeah, no, it's definitely an odd or a very cool experience. Because, I'd still feel like I'm just the same person that just fucking played Apex for fun.
Yeah, I think
But
that
I'm
just
in a
comes with
different
it.
position now.
Yeah, that just comes with it, though, right? Where it's like, just because of like who you are, and that people kind of look up to you and go, "Oh, wow, that's him," even though
Yeah.
you don't really think that yourself. You just kind of fall into it. You kind of fall into like just being that, and like I'm sure you had like loads of people come up to the meet and greet, right? They must have had loads of people.
Meet and greets are weird for me because
Do you not like them?
I've said this to so many different people, but I would say 50 to 60% of the people genuinely want me to sign whatever the fuck they're getting signed. And if it's like a Falcons fan or a fan of the team I'm on, obviously they'll want everybody to sign. Then there's about probably 20% that don't really mind, so they'll just like put it in front of you. Don't really care to know who I am. Just fucking, I'm wearing a jersey, so they'll let me sign it. Then there's 10% of people that are just like not really interested, don't really want any coach's signature. I'm like, that's cool. Then there's another 10%, right, that very clearly don't know who I am or don't want me to sign, but like I'm there, so they'll be like, do you want to sign this? And I'm like, do you want me to? Like,
yeah.
So I don't sit down next to them during meet and greets anymore. I leave them there and I go and stand off to the side and just like talk to people, like talk to my friends. And if somebody really wants my signature, they'll come up to me whilst I'm standing up. And that, I do that a little bit, but other than that, I don't like being on the table specifically for that 10% of people that don't know what they want and are like too nervous to just walk past me.
Say anything. Yeah.
It's so awkward.
But you are also on the team. Like, as much as you don't like it, like, you are still part of the team, Like, you still, you're still going to get people that want your signature,
Yeah, no, I know. But I'm not, like, insecure about that, though. That's why I like, don't mind just sitting up to the side and letting the boys have their moment.
Right, okay. So you're just humble king, yeah?
Oh, yeah, you know me.
Yeah, humble king. No, I get you, though. I get you. Like, you... Obviously, I'm not in the position you're in, but, like, when you get asked your signature, it is kind of, like, a weird thing. Like, I don't know... For example, like, when you first ever signed, like, a contract or, like, an NDA or, like, something that isn't your actual signature before you came online, I found it so weird signing something because I'm like, what do I sign? Like, how do I sign this? I don't have a signature because I'm not going to sign my actual name because it's not my name. I had to sign as my online name. And then you kind of just like, you never really think about like signing it, you know? You never really think about what you're going to sign it as. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. It's a weird one you just kind of have to fall into. Where you just go, okay, well, I guess this is my signature. Mine is terrible, I'm not going to lie. Mine is awful. Mine's literally just the name written out. Like, because I'm like, well, what do I say? Like, how do I sign this? Like, it's not my actual signature that I would use in real life, you know?
Well, no, you would be shocked. You've been to lands, right? Have you ever like gone to get a pro to sign anything?
No.
None of them have real signatures.
Did I not?
None of them.
Right, okay.
No, like they all just write their name. Some write it better than others. Walty just writes it in like very fucking little block letters.
Yeah.
Guild just writes Guild. Like, even Timmy just writes it's Timmy, but writes it nicely. Like, it's just, it looks nice, but it's not a signature.
Right.
I think the only times Yuki it's not really a signature. He like kind of writes his name, but it's pretty. Like, it looks nice.
Looks nice, yeah.
Yeah.
Will you say yours looks nice?
I think mine looks nice.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Lulu Lovely, you had a really nice one. Howl's Imperial Howl, like.
To be fair, that's the only signature I've got.
0-0.
Yeah, that's the only signature I do I've got is Lulu Lovely's when I met her at TwitchCon. I think it was her.
She has a very nice signature as well. It's like the content creators have good signatures. The pros just write their names.
Yeah, I've got it on like a lanyard somewhere, but pretty sure that's the only one I got signed. I think that's the only person I've ever asked for a signature since I've been online. It's Lulu Lovely. And that's when I met her in TwitchCon Amsterdam like 4 years ago or something. But no, I've never actually asked a pro player for their signature. But yeah, I can imagine it's not really like that innovative, and they're not really like, they just write their name, right? They don't really have.
Yeah, pretty much. Like they have to do it so much at lands that they really should just fucking practice it a bit and make his signature. Like, mine is genuinely just a big ass fucking cursive D, and then just like the rest of the letters like
smaller letters.
Small cursive.
Yeah. So the D's bigger. Yeah. That's kind of what my dad's is like, actually. My dad's is like that, where the first letter's massive and then the rest of it is like just small letters.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you say your favorite memory is just being involved in Apex in general, like just being the whole getting to do what you do.
A bunch of different little memories, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, actually, I'll give you one.
Okay.
When Split 2, when it was me, Guild, Timmy, and we had just, you know, we won groups and then we won winners. And we were the first team ever to win groups and winners. We got to our meet and greet after winners, and we've turned the corner to this massive ass line, and like everybody's just started clapping. Like, we just got this insane round of applause as soon as we turned the corner. Like, just a massive cheer, and that was insane. That was like a really fucking surreal feeling.
Really cool moment. Yeah. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. To be fair, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know how he was gonna answer that question because I was like, there's so much you've done now that like, what is?
Yeah. If I had won a LAN, I would have just said winning this LAN.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Who is your favorite roommate for Kyle? Oh, tough one, that. That's the best question of the day. That's the best question of the day.
Annoying. Probably Ben, because he's the least messy.
Okay.
His room's a mess. His room's fucking insanely messy, but he keeps like the communal spaces tidy. So probably Ben.
Right. Okay. I mean, your room is quite tidy.
Yeah, I'm the tidy one.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I'm the one that fucking had to hire cleaners.
Yeah, I heard about that. That's crazy. You know, you got the jerseys in the back. Look, keeps it clean, mate. He's even made the bed.
I'm gonna know that was that.
He's made the bed. Look,
it's gonna be a shelf over there. I'm gonna put some shit up.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could put like some posters up there, no?
Yeah, I will. I just need to like.
Or like even frame them jerseys, maybe.
Or the plan is that Moist jersey is gonna get signed by, like, Charlie and all the other Moist owners.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay.
So go and see them.
And what's the other shirt next to you? The black one?
The Gaming Gladiators jersey.
Oh, Gaming Gladiators. Right. Okay. Who is the best coach in your opinion? Sorry, what were you saying? Go on.
I have a very vast collection of jerseys. It's actually criminal.
Yeah. Do you just get them from the lands? Yeah, you just get them off people.
Jersey swap all the time, yeah.
Yeah. What did I say? Who's the best coach in your opinion that could be for any game?
Well, that's very tricky. I don't know enough about like coaches in other esports, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I feel like there isn't that many, right?
There is a Rocket League coach that I think was almost the reason Vitality won a LAN a while ago.
Yeah.
Because it was an NA LAN and they were versing another European team, and he has very intelligently walked out with a US flag and gotten the entire like audience on his team's side. And then they smoked the team at the LAN, which was very fucking intelligent. I'm trying to find him now. Give me a second.
Yeah, nice. Do you think?
Ferrer, his name is, the old Vitality coach.
Right. And he came out holding a USA flag.
Yeah, even though they're French. And then the entire crowd was on their side.
Damn.
After that.
That is crazy. Right, well, we're all done then, Cole. I'll let you get on with your day.
Man.
Thank you for doing this, bro.
Having me.
Thank you, mate. Thank you for doing this, bro. I know you have to get up early for this.
Not really.
Yeah, but listen, I know your schedule.
I was gonna bum the schedule.
No, I know your schedule's over. It's fine, bro. I understand. I get it. But yeah, thanks for doing it, man. I appreciate you.
Lovely talking.
Take it easy. You too, man. Thanks for doing it.
Bye bye.
Bye bye, Kyle.